We are ready to roll. For those of you listening at home, hi, we're online. Please stand. In the name of the Father, of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Wait, what the heck am I saying? Sorry, Latin. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. Sanctum Michael Arcangelo, defende nos in prayer. Contra nequitiam et insidias diaboli, extra presidio. Imperet illi Deus, supplices de pregam. Tuque, princeps malitia celestis, Satana, aliosque spiritus malignos, qui ad perditionem animarum pervigantur in mundo, divina virtute in inferno detrude. Amen. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Amen. But tell you what I'm planning to do, what I can start first is, I want to go through the next two sections are actually relatively short, so I think we're going to do them together. Well, I'm still going to keep the homework relatively tame, one day at a time. The assignment that was due for today is 1C as in Charlie on page 19. So I'm going to hold off on that for a second, put that on ice, and take out your notes. I'm going to talk just a teeny little bit about, let's see, look at that second. Yes. Three main things for today. Three main things in addition to getting a marker. Equations. Here are the three things we're going to be covering today. Inequalities. And something which is nicknamed math language. I'll explain that when we get there. So, go ahead and jot those down. Equations, inequalities, and math language. I do have to do a quick 2-minute digression. St. Peter Claver is actually an amazing guy. Has anybody ever heard of him before? He lived hundreds of years ago when the slave trade was still running. He was a priest, and there was an occasion where he needed to take a ship across some huge body of water, probably across the Atlantic Ocean. And it was a slave ship, and he was given a regular, cabin and what have you. And he saw the slaves being packed into the cargo hold underneath the deck. The conditions were monstrous. They would have hundreds of people packed into, let's say, a room like this. They would pack it with like 300 people who they were packed so tightly that most people couldn't even lie down. And they were supposed to be there for, now you can go across the Atlantic Ocean in a week. It took months. So literally these people, they were on a month or 2-month or 3-month journey, and they could barely kneel down. Almost nobody could lie down on the floor to go to sleep. They would just sort of flop. The heat was incredible. The stench down there was horrible. There was no bathroom. It was just, you can imagine what would happen after a month. It was just sickening. And Father Claver came upon this and watched this, and he was absolutely horrified. He went to the captain of the ship, and he knew he couldn't talk the captain out of letting the slaves go or something like that. It was so deeply entrenched, but he said, "Can I go down there to minister to those people?" And the captain said, "Oh, Father, you don't know what you're saying. It's like the conditions are horrible, the stench, the heat." And Father Claver said, "That's exactly why I'm going down there. If those children of God down there can suffer that, then so can I." I said, "I won't stop you." He went down there and he spent almost every day of the entire trip down there with them. Again, the stench was so bad and the heat was so bad. What would happen is Father Claver, he would go down and bravely, he would minister as long as he could. Then he would run up to the top, lean over the edge of the ship, and throw up. And right back down. And then to spend hours upon hours. Incredible. There were people who were sick, usually a huge number of slaves would die. And these people who captured these people for slavery just figured they treated them like animals. And they treated them worse than animals because they figured, well, you know, on a cargo ship like this, we expect about 30% of our cargo to die. So they just throw them overboard when they died, and no big deal. And Peter Claver said, these are human beings, these are children redeemed by our God. We've got to treat them like that. He went down, when people would fall sick, he would take a bucket of water, wash their face, wash their wounds. He tried his best to preach to them. Almost none of them spoke a language that Father Claver did. I think Father Claver spoke Italian. I'll have to look that up. Maybe Spanish. But he, with sign language, and eventually by teaching him a little bit of his language, he started teaching them very, very basic things about God, about the fact that there's a life after this that's good, that there's a God who loves people, and that if you love him back and do what he wants, you can be happy forever, and then all the suffering in this world will pass away. And that if you take this special water that's given by him and throw away your sins and let the water wash you in baptism, you can enter that kingdom. And hundreds upon hundreds of people were baptized by Father Claver. Thousands over his lifetime. He would just go out, ship after ship after ship. He'd go back and say, "Can I please go down to the cargo hold?" and etc. And he was trying his best to connect with influential people to try and stop the slave trade. He never did because it was so entrenched, but he made incredible work out of that. He's an amazing, amazing guy. And there are lots of other stories. Go ahead and look up online. All right, back to math. Equations. What is an equation? An equation is two expressions separated by an equal sign. An equation is any two expressions, any two anythings, separated by an equal sign. For example, x equals 5. That's an equation, because it's two thingies separated by an equal sign. You can also have numbers, 2 plus 3 equals 5. That's an equation. So any two things separated, you can get nice and complicated. X squared plus 3x plus 4 equals 0. You can have it as weird or as easy as you want. Any two things, no matter how big or small, separated by an equal sign. And that's called an equation. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about those and why we care. But right now, I want to tell you number 2. What's an inequality? Inequality is two expressions. I'm going to abbreviate here, if that's okay. Two expressions separated by an inequality sign. And there are 5 possible. I'm going to note that down first. So inequalities are two expressions separated by an inequality sign. An inequality sign. An equation has an equal sign, hence the name. An inequality is something where it's not equal. And there are actually 5 possible ways that you can be not equal. Anybody remember one? If it's not equal, what else could it be? Like if my height is not equal to my brother's, which by the way it's not, what could it be?
Unequal.
Unequal. In what way? There are 2 possible ways.
Are you taller? Or?
Yeah, I could be taller or I could be
short.
Short. I'm shorter, by the way. My brother is like 6'2.5" or 3, and he weighs like 240 pounds. Not that I'm intimidated or anything, but he's built like it. He's got arms like this. Hi, Brian. Crack. Ow. But anyway, yeah, so my height is less than his. So you'd use a less than sign. What other sign could there be? Greater than sign. There's another sign that's kind of a double sign. What's that? Equal to is actually over here. Three equals.
There's
This
greater
sort
than or
of count.
equal to.
Greater than or equal to?
There's less than or equal to.
Yeah, it looks like this. They don't use a full equal sign, they just use it. I think they're kind of double dipping here. But less than with a line underneath it is less than or equal to. And then what's the other one?
Less than or greater. No, less than or
Greater than or?
Greater than or equal to.
Greater than or equal to. And there's one other. A lot of people are tempted to put equals, but equals goes with equations or equalities. There's one other, and it's not used very often.
Can
It's
you
un-
draw a sign?
Yep. It's called not equal. It doesn't actually say much. It doesn't tell you much. It's like, okay, I'll give you, I'm thinking, you ever do the guessing game where I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 100? Or something like that? I'll give you a hint. I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 100. And it's not 3. Is that a useful hint? Not really. I mean, it's a little bit useful, but like, thanks. Like that, okay, just 99 more numbers to. But if I say I'm thinking of a number between 1 and 100, and it's less than 3, does that help? That helps amazingly. It's like 1 or 2, and that's it. You get a 50% chance of being right. This doesn't tell you a heck of a lot, but it is one of the inequalities. So there are 5 possible inequality signs. So for example, it might look like this. X is greater than or equal to 5. 2 plus 1 is less than 7. X squared plus 3x plus 4 is not equal to 0. Those are inequalities. 2 thingies separated by an inequality sign. Does that make sense? All right, let me see if we get a question marker. This one is not. Third, math language. This, a lot of people don't think of math this way, but it's true. Math is actually a language. It's kind of like English or Spanish or something like that, because you can translate it back and forth. You can take a math language and translate it into English, and take an English problem and translate it into math, if it's the right type of problem. Can anybody get, this is a random question, but can you guess what kind of math problem is the least popular, most hated type of math problem? If you survey 10,000 people, almost all of them are going to say this is the worst type of problem.
Anything with pi.
Anything with pi. Oh, well, it depends. There are some people who actually like that. Just a general type of problem that people just, say, oh no. So now it's like you open your book to the assignment and then you see one of these types of problems and people go, and take a guess. Word problems, story problems. They're notorious for people hating them. It's like, no, please, just give me another one of those exercises. Not this stupid story. A train is traveling 30 miles per hour at due east, and another train is traveling. Now, by the way, that's a violation of the 5th commandment. Don't do that, especially people watching at home. But it's a metaphor. But the reason those are so scary is because they're written in English or Spanish if you're in Mexico or something like that. They're not written in math language. If you translate a word problem into math formulas, it's a lot easier. It's a lot more friendly. I want to give you a little bit of a dictionary for English to math conversion. I'm going to write two columns here, one for English and one for math. There are certain English words or phrases that will translate into a math symbol or formula. Let's try the first one. The English word is. Let me give you an example. X is 5. How would you say that in math?
X is equal.
Second?
Would it be x equal to 5?
X equals 5. Yeah. Is means equals. This is a little more obscure. The word of. math operation.
You use it in a sentence.
Yes. To make this recipe, I need, how many eggs do I need? 1/2 of a dozen. Now I'll give you a hint, I'll narrow it down to 4. It's either add, subtract, multiply, or divide. The word of, take a stab and guess.
Subtract.
Very close.
5.
You're close on the other side.
Add.
That's a little farther away.
Multiply.
Okay.
There's only one choice left. Multiply, correct. All means multiply. 1/2 of a dozen means 1/2 times 12. You can punch that into a calculator, do it on paper. And it's 6, by the way. So in other words, of, when you see it in a story problem, if it actually means of some, half of something or a duplicate of something, then it means multiply. Now you have to use common sense. If somebody says the Duke of Earl, it doesn't mean Duke times Earl. It has to be an actual math problem. But of usually in a story problem means multiply. How about this? At least, that's an English phrase, at least. If I am at least 6 feet tall, what else could I be? Could I be 6 feet tall? If somebody says, how tall are you, Mr. Gallagher? And I said, I'm at least 6 feet tall. Is it possible that I'm 6 feet tall? Yeah. It's also possible that I'm what?
6'1".
6'1". In other words, anything that's what?
Above.
Above. In other words, it could be equal or it could be above. Is there a symbol for that? Greater than or equal to. At least is greater than or equal to. No more than. If my weight is no more than 170, could it be 170?
It would be less
Yeah.
than
And it could be what?
Less than.
Could be less than. So what's the symbol for that? Less than or equal to. Excellent. If it's no more than 170, then it could be 170 or it could be less. It could be less than or equal to 170. Okay. Is less than. Now the is a little deceptive because people think equals. It's actually not. This is an English phrase. Is there a symbol for this?
Yes.
Like what?
Less than.
Just plain old less than. So how about this? 3 is less than X. That's a whole sentence. Can somebody translate that into a whole math sentence? I think you can do it in 3 symbols.
3.
Go.
3 less than X.
Exactly. 3 is less than X. Does that make sense? Be careful here. The book is going to do this to you, and it's a really careful. It's like they're throwing a curveball at you, trying to fool you. You notice the word that's missing? The is got dropped out. 3 less than X. If my height is 3 less than my brother's height, how do you find my height?
Well, you'd have to know your brother's height.
Brother's height. Okay, it's 6 foot. I think he's 6'3".
So then you'd be 6.
Okay, it's 2 inches. Sorry.
So if he's 6'3", then you'd be 6 foot.
I forgot. It's 2 inches less. Sorry, my bad. So he's 6'3". How tall am I? 6'1". Right. I forgot. He's actually not quite as tall as I thought he was. He's just pretty tall. If you're watching this, Dan, hi. Nice to see you. He's in Minnesota somewhere. I'm sure he's probably not going to watch this. Because this will be the one time where he does. 3 less than X. Well, maybe I should have done 2 less than X. But how do you get 3 less than something? What math operation are you doing? Subtraction. In other words, you take X and subtract 3. which is different than saying 3 is less than X. Oh, okay. Hope that kicks back on. I'll wait 5 minutes. The circuit breaker for this is downstairs on the first floor, so I get lots of exercise. Stop tripping! And if it gets warm in here, I'll jog down. Sometimes it kicks back on within 5 minutes, if it doesn't roll. It's easier to hear, but whatever. Does it kind of make sense? All right. Now, let's try, tell you what, open your books if you will. We'll take a peek and not knock all my pencils down. Take a peek at, we're looking at page 20-something. Yes, I think it is. Come on, weasel. 24, 25, 26, 20, yes. Number 20, page 27. Look at number 14. It says check whether the given number is a solution of the equation. Solution means it works. Look at number 14, for example. 3b plus 1 equals 13. They're basically saying 3 times some number plus 1 equals 13. How would you test to see if that's actually true? They gave you a value. B is equal to what? Look at it right behind the semicolon.
4.
4. They're claiming that B is 4. Is that a solution or not?
Yeah.
How would you find out?
Well, if 4 is B, then you do 3 times 4,
Mhm.
which is 12, plus 1, 13.
Correct. And you'll need the order of operations from the other day. But let me erase this. Has everybody got this? No? Let me try an actual example. This is number 14. And this is actually one of your homework problems. If you copy this down, you got a freebie. Which I could probably clean this whole thing off. So number 14. 3b plus 1 equals 13. And they suggest, they have this number 4 after the semicolon, which basically means they're claiming that b is equal to 4. And they want to know, is this a solution? In other words, did they get it right? And the way you do it is you plug it in. 3 parentheses 4, always use parentheses when you plug in. Okay, order of operations, remembering people. What do you do first, multiply or add?
Multiply.
Multiply, correct. So 3 times 4 is what again?
12.
12 plus 1. I'm gonna put a little question mark here, because we don't know if it's true or not. Is this true?
Yes.
Yes, it is true. So is it a solution or no?
Yes.
Yes, it is. The way you find out if it's a solution is try it. Test it. So 14 through 25 is just plug it in, as my old high school math teacher used to say, plug and chug. You just plug it in, chug out the answer, and see if it works. Now, yeah, go ahead.
Are we just writing yes, or are we writing like yes?
Just yes or no. Yeah. So they're pretty much saying, is it a solution or not? And then you say yes or no. 26 through 37, they want you to find the solution just by mental math. Just stare at it and see if you can get it. They're relatively non-stressful, relatively. And then 38 through 55, they're doing inequalities. They want to find out, they'll give you a solution and they say, does it work in the inequality? Let me give you a quick example. Problem number 38. N minus 2 is less than 6. And then they give you the suggestion of 3, which basically means n equals 3. Does that work? And if so, how do you know?
You plug in 3 for n.
Yeah.
And then
Take 3 minus 2 and see if it's less than 6. We don't know yet. What is this, by the way?
that'd be 1.
1. Is 1 less than 6?
Yes.
Yes, it is. Therefore, yes, it's a solution. So number 38, the answer is yes. Okay.
How many of those are we doing now for 38?
Let me look. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, blah, 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 blah. Yes, I think, let me put this up on the board and I'll put it up over there too. The next assignment is going to be number 1D. And I am still working on the homework guide sheet, which should be for chapter 2 and 3 as well. Still fixing some typos and things. So it's going to be pages 27 through 28. Numbers. Blah, 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 blah. Actually, I want you to do 15 through 63 odd. So skipping every other one. So I think that's a total of like 28 problems, I think. Thereabouts. Does that make sense? All right. So math language, there's a little burst right at the end, which is, what was it? 56 through 64. Turn to page 28, if you will. Look at number 57. It says the product of 6 and x is equal to 32. Can you tell me which of those formulas on the right seems to translate that? The product of 16 and x. What does product mean? Yeah.
Isn't it addition?
Addition is sum. Good
Oh,
guess.
yeah, yeah.
Actually, let's go through those. What is a sum? Is when you add. What do you get when you subtract?
Isn't
So
that the product?
Product is next after that. So you get sum for addition. So adding is a sum. Subtracting gives you something that starts with a D. DI. Thank you for turning back on. Well, difference. Difference. That actually has some common sense behind it too. If I say, what's the difference between 10 and 7?
3.
It's 3. You just did a subtraction problem. And then multiplying is what again? The answer to a multiplication problem is called, starts with E. This is where we give it away.
Product.
Product. Does anybody know the division? It's an
Was
interesting.
that one the divisible one?
It's starting with a Q.
Oh, poly?
QUO.
Quotation?
Close.
Quotate?
Oh, quotient. Quotient. The answer to a division problem is called quotient. So those, put in your notes somewhere. I'd like you to commit those to memory in the next 2 chapters. So a sum is when you add. Subtraction gives you a difference. Multiplication gives you a product. And division gives you a quotient. And they'll be using those words 56 through 64. So you can check the list if you don't remember them. But try and commit those to memory. So 57 again. The product of 16 and x is equal to 32. What is product again? When they're doing what?
Multiply.
Multiplying.
You said 57.
Correct. So 57, they're asking you which of those letters on the right, A through I, actually translates that. Yeah, what do you think?
Is it I?
Close. That'd be 16 times x is less than 32. If they say 16x,
It's G.
it is. It's G. 16x equals 32. Does that make sense? That is actually all I have for you. So you're welcome to use the rest of the hour to pound away at this stuff. If you get done with that, feel free to do anything else that you need to backlog, or what have you. People listening at home, hi Jenny. Talk to you soon. Click like and subscribe.